So with that, I think let's go ahead and get started. Good morning. I would like to welcome you to today's Middle Mile Broadband Initiative Outreach and Engagement session. We really appreciate all of you joining us this morning. Over the first thing that I'd like to let you all know is that we are recording today's session. So I just want to make sure that you are all aware of that. Over the course of today's session, we will be providing an overview of the middle mile broadband projects, including the use of job order contracts and construction manager general contractors. There will also be networking opportunities to support engagement between prime contractors and subcontractors, including small businesses. Before we get started, I want to cover a couple of logistics. We are using a virtual venue today, which is WebEx, which is similar to other online meeting applications that you may be familiar with, Zoom, MS Teams, and it does feature a Q&A section and hand raising. I would also like to remind folks, please be sure you're muted if you're not speaking. Attendees, when we move to the Q&A section, you will need to raise your hand and then we will unmute you. Our host today, Nick Beard, will be supporting us with this effort. If you do have questions, please use the Q&A box. The Q&A boxes may be found along the bottom right side of your screen. If you do not see these featured, you'll find them by clicking on the triple dots, which show more options. There will be questions. As mentioned, there will be a Q&A session toward the latter half of this meeting. So with those housekeeping items out of the way, to share opening remarks, we're pleased to have the Director of the California Department of Technology and the Director of the California Department of Transportation, or Caltrans. And I would like to start by introducing Director Leanna Bailey Crimmins with the California Department of Technology. Director?
Well, thank you very much. Adriana, it is a pleasure to be here today, and I want to welcome and thank everyone for attending our Broadband Middle Mile Outreach and Engagement webinar. As I was so nicely introduced, I am Leanna Bailey Crimmins, the Director of the Department of Technology, the State Chief Information Officer, and also the Chair of the Middle Mile Advisory Committee. There's a sobering statistic that many of you have heard that basically 1 in 5 Californians do not have broadband services. And that's either due to connectivity, which hopefully many of you will be able to help us with, and or affordability challenges. Broadband for All is California's commitment to closing the digital divide. And that means bringing internet services to unserved and underserved homes, businesses, and communities across this great state of ours. In July of 2021, Governor Gavin Newsom signed SB 156 into law to construct the open access middle mile broadband network. This infrastructure is definitely needed for those last mile internet service providers to run those connections to homes and businesses across our state. And then because California Department of Technology has decided to have a lot of private and public partnerships with, hopefully you will be one of them, we've been able to do a lot of firsts in a very short time frame. So let's talk about that time frame. In July 2021, Governor Gavin Newsom signed SB 156. And then shortly thereafter, August 2021, we held our first committee meeting of the Middle Mile, and we shared our vision of the first 18 Middle Mile locations. And then November, very shortly thereafter, we actually launched the full statewide network map. That was also closely tied into, the complete 10,000 mile map was released in June of 2022. I'm thrilled that we're able to collaborate, and we see small business and DVB business partners as a big part of that success and this once in a lifetime investment. So I'd like to now turn over the mic and introduce someone that maybe you might know, the Caltrans Director, Tony Tavares. He has been a great partner in this, and I look forward to hearing more from him and you through today's webinar. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Director Bailey Crimmins, and good morning, everyone. I'm the Caltrans Director, Tony Tavares. It's an honor, a great pleasure to welcome all of you to this morning's Middle Mile Broadband Initiative engagement session. Our state has long worked to close the digital divide, and during the pandemic, we realize the critical need and reliance on broadband, and also the lack of equity among our unserved and underserved community, those communities not having reliable, high-speed internet to perform some basic functions. Through this middle mile broadband initiative, we are prioritizing bringing reliable, high-speed broadband service to disadvantaged and underserved communities and unserved communities. We're proud to support the Department of Technology's effort to create this middle mile network, the physical infrastructure needed to enable internet connectivity for homes, for businesses, and community institutions throughout California. This middle mile broadband network serves as the backbone infrastructure to bring high-speed internet to as many Californians as possible. And this initiative is a significant undertaking, and we will need the partnership of all our small businesses, our minority-owned businesses, and our disabled veteran businesses to meet this challenge. Caltrans is extremely proud and honored to advocate for small and minority businesses and disabled veteran businesses to ensure that they are included in these opportunities going forward. Again, we appreciate the opportunity to share more with you about the Broadband Middle Mile Initiative and how you can engage with us and with many of the primes. We know that this is not an easy task, but we see the vital role of broadband and how it plays in our lives and the value in what we are doing as a state. With school, work, healthcare increasingly or completely available online, Californians' ability to access and use broadband became the difference between being able to engage in life or being left out. While Caltrans is mostly known for our roads and highways, we are also about connecting people in many other ways. And that is exactly what the Broadband Middle Mile Initiative comes down to. It comes down to connecting people and bringing people together. So I want to thank you all today for joining us and for our continued work together. I look forward to working with all of you very closely and bringing you connected to the primes of these contracts that will be going out. Thank you very much. And now I'd like to pass it back to Adriana.
Thank you, Director Tavares. We really appreciate you and Director Bailey Crimmins joining us this morning and for the work underway by both the California Department of Technology and Caltrans in support of this initiative that furthers digital equity and inclusion. Next on our agenda, we're going to do a summary of the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative. I would like to introduce Mark Monroe. Mark is the Deputy Director for the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative for the California Department of Technology. Here today to share an overview of the initiative. Mark? Nick, can we make sure that Mark is unmuted? I don't know if anybody else is having issues hearing him.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, my
Thank
apologies. So thank you all for joining. Yeah, I'm Mark Monroe, the Deputy Director for the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative, as Adriana noted. We want to start by putting the map out here in front of everybody. The map here reflects a 10,000-mile Middle Mile Broadband Initiative Network, or MMBI, we call it. It's a large public works project that will benefit the whole state. It was developed in partnership with the California Public Utilities Commission, as well as Golden State Net, our third-party administrator, to connect the unserved and underserved communities throughout the state. As Directors Bailey Crimmins and Tavares have noted, and as most have realized by now, especially after the last 3 years, broadband has gone from an amenity to really being a utility, something most people will need to participate in modern life and the economy. We've certainly seen this with telestudy and school for schooling and remote working, access to medical services and emergency services. So really a strong policy reason that the administration and the legislature have worked together on this. And so as noted, the governor and the legislature partnered over the past couple of years to provide a total of $3.8 billion to develop this network that we see in front of us here, to have an open access statewide middle mile network. The majority of these funds are federal funds, which must be under contract by the end of 2024, with all the work being done by December of 2026. So, just I always want people to appreciate that we're looking at a 10,000-mile public works project that needs to be under contract by 2024 and completed by 2026. Very, very tight time frames, big challenges for us. To this end, since the legislation was signed, CDT's worked with Caltrans to accelerate the permitting processes and timelines over this past year. We've also signed procurements for 3,000 miles or more of fiber and related materials to mitigate against any supply constraints we might encounter between now and 2026. And now we've gone out to contract for more than 7,000 miles of construction. So that's more than 70% of this 10,000-mile network. We want to give all Californians an opportunity to benefit from this work, and Caltrans will discuss this more in depth. And with that, I'll turn it over to Caltrans to talk more about the project scope and the opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I would like to introduce Hardeep Takar, who's the program director for the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative at Caltrans, who's going to be able to provide an overview of the projects. Hardeep?
Thank you, Adriana. Yeah, it is a pleasure to be here to talk about the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative and the ambitious effort to promote digital equity and inclusion. Today is about sharing information on this opportunity and making sure you have the background on the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative. What is this project about? What is the type of work, and how can you engage? The initiative is a significant undertaking, and as Director Tavares said, we'll need the partnership of small and disadvantaged businesses to meet this challenge. Through this initiative, we are taking a comprehensive and long-term approach to tackling broadband infrastructure deficiencies, connecting Californians, and meeting broadband infrastructure needs. Next slide, please. The full system design map for the Broadband Middle Mile Initiative includes 10,000 miles of proposed build that spans the entire state. To put this in perspective, Caltrans owns and operates 15,000 centerline miles, and with this initiative, we are adding broadband to almost 2/3 of that infrastructure. This will bring high-speed broadband service to unserved and underserved communities. Next slide, please. The Broadband Middle Mile Initiative has an aggressive timeline, as Mr. Monroe mentioned, to meet the 10,000-mile network goal and ensure we are maximizing the use of federal dollars. It is funded through the Federal American Rescue Plan Act, also referred to as ARPA, with Treasury Department funds that requires the dollars to be encumbered by December 2024 and projects closed out with all funds used by December 2026. We are working closely with the California Department of Technology, the lead agency and project owner to ensure we are prepared to navigate any challenges or potential issues. Next slide, please. The Broadband Middle Mile Initiative is an example of how Caltrans is not doing business as usual. We have been given flexibility to accomplish the 10,000-mile build goal by December 2026. In the standard project delivery process, it is linear, with each phase being allocated and then completed. Instead, we are streamlining the delivery processes to create efficiencies in design, permitting, and contracting, which allows these pre-construction processes to be completed concurrently. Next slide, please. To install the conduit and fiber optic cable, the work will involve using plowing, trenching, and trenchless installation and construction means and methods. Typically 6 to 12-inch wide trenches will be constructed, and 24 to 42 inches, which will be 24 to 42 inches in depth, depending on the site conditions. And the details include trenching on the roadside, trenching in pavement, trenching on the shoulder, and plowing means and methods as well. The work will include building approximately 21,000 walls every 2,500 feet approximately to full fiber, and building splice walls located every 15,000 feet along the network to serve as connection points to allow local access to broadband providers. We are also planning to build more than 200 concrete network hub shelters for fiber optic cable signal regeneration, which will be strategically positioned every 50 miles along the right-of-way, where buried fiber optic cable is transferred above ground to connect with transceiver devices to boost and enhance data signals. Next slide, please. So in terms of the construction means and methods, plowing involves using vibratory plow to create a narrow slit in soil as the plow moves quickly, resulting in minimal soil disturbance and requiring an effortless cleanup following the operation. Applicability of the plowing techniques include areas where installation is required in a soil surface that includes an uneven, wet, dry terrain, and will have a tight schedule, a long haul, and will also require restoration following completion of the work. In addition to plowing, the other methods that I'll be going over include traditional trenching. Next slide, please. Which is a common method used for cross-country installations and may affect traffic movement and is slower than plowing. Trenching and pavement will be allowed in narrow trenches on shoulders and pavement to overcome width and depth limitations encountered at locations where we need to avoid impacts to environmental resources and overcome right-of-way restrictions. Slide, please. This slide illustrates the micro-trenching construction method, which is also a type of trench and pavement method, cutting a narrow trench, typically 3 to 6 inch wide in pavement, as covered in the previous slide. This illustration shows its use in local streets or in residential neighborhoods. Next slide, please. Horizontal directional drilling applications may include long hauls over most terrains, including rocky ground conditions, overpasses, embankments, side hills, and river crossings as well. Operations will need to consider entrance and exit pits, pilot holes, reaming and swab passes, a sound curtain for noise mitigation, and site restoration when the work is done. Slide, please. This slide lists the typical equipment and materials used in horizontal drilling operations. Next slide, please. For trenchless installations using jack and bore operations, typical applications will include roadways and railroads crossings where when a casing is required and where horizontal directional drilling may not be feasible. Similar to horizontal drilling, operations will need to consider entrance-exit pits, pilot hole reaming and swab passes, pipe casing, and site restoration when the work is completed. Slide, please. For the middle mile broadband projects, there will be state furnished materials that will be shipped directly to the project locations. The California Department of Technology has a contract in place to procure the materials listed on the slide, as well as a logistics contract to coordinate between the supplier and the construction contractors. Next slide, please. The bill for the middle mile broadband network will be delivered through either job order contracting methods or construction manager general contracting methods. Currently, we have about 5,200 miles of the network that have been advertised for job order contracting. And for the construction manager general contracting, the plan is to build roughly anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 miles of the network using this method. Next slide, please. So what is job order contracting? Job order contracting is a new delivery method that Caltrans is implementing. These procedures and bidding processes may be different compared to other DOTs and agencies' job order contracting procedures. This is an on-call construction services contract where construction work and performance is determined by issuing work orders with the contractor during a fixed period of time. Caltrans awards the job order contract master agreement to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. A job order contract master agreement is a 12-month agreement with the option of extending for up to two 12-month periods upon mutual agreement between the department and the contractor. Work orders are then issued as an individual construction contract, which identify specific locations and items of work. Next slide, please. Caltrans, the California Department of Technology, and Department of General Services work together to issue an addendum with a 25% small business and 3% disabled veteran business enterprise target. This is for the regional job order contracts we're talking about. The addendums to the invitation for bids for the 5 regional job order contracts aims to facilitate the use of small business enterprises and disabled veteran business enterprises. The invitation for bids require the contractor to develop a comprehensive plan that fully outlines the contractor's commitment to meet the state's goal. The invitation for bids also require the contractor to report quarterly on their small business and disabled veteran business enterprises utilization progress relative to this plan. Next slide, please. Currently, there are 5 regional job order contracts being advertised, which are posted on the Cal eProcure website. If you have specific questions regarding these job order contracts, please submit a bidder inquiries through the Cal eProcure website. Next slide, please. We will also be using the construction manager general contractor procurement method, which procure construction contract manager during environmental recommended or design phase based on the best qualifications. Construction manager provides input services during the design phase, also known as pre-construction services. And if the price is agreed to, the construction manager becomes the general contractor. If the fair and reasonable price is not agreed to, the project will be advertised. We will collaborate and partner with the construction manager general contractor for each work package on subcontracting opportunities, including for small businesses and disabled veteran enterprises. Next slide, please. In support of this effort, there are currently 5 construction manager general contracts being advertised, which are posted on the Cal eProcure website. And the link to the website is provided below. Next slide. Next slide, please. Additionally, we are working to advertise 4 construction manager general contracting opportunities. These opportunities will be posted on the Caltrans's look ahead, and when advertised, will be posted to Cal eProcure website. Again, information presented and discussed today are not binding. For information that contractors can rely upon, please submit a proposal inquiry questions, also known as bidder inquiries, as noted in the invitation for bid. We appreciate the opportunity to share information with you about the Broadband Middle Mile Initiative and how you can engage. And we're relying on small business partners to help provide the diverse trade talents needed on these projects. Thank you, and we look forward to working with you. I'll pass it back to Adriana.
Thank you, Hardeep. To talk about outreach and engagement, I would like to introduce Michelle Lopez-Hardy with the Caltrans Office of Civil Rights, Alex McCracken with the California Capital Procurement Technical Assistance Center, and Will McClure with the California Black Chamber of Commerce. Michelle?
Thank you, Adriana. Good morning, everybody. My name is Michelle Lopez-Hardy. I'm one of the office chiefs here in Caltrans Office of Civil Rights. My office is providing the oversight for the small business outreach for the Middle Mile Broadband Network project. We have our district small business liaisons that you will have an opportunity to meet in the breakout rooms. So in addition to those connections that we're going to make today, we continue to have one-on-ones statewide. We are promoting with our local partners mentoring, and we have been messaging consistently to the small business community via constant contact, along with partnering with other state agencies on the master agreement, promoting the the projects, the middle mile broadband projects via the local small business council meetings. And we continue to partner with the small business development centers in addition to our procurement and technical assistance centers. I do have today somebody from a PTAC center to provide you some information in terms of the free services that they offer. So hopefully that'll be very informative for the audience today. Next slide, please. I wanted to provide a snapshot of your local district small business liaison and the assignments relative to the job order contracting by region. Again, you'll have an opportunity to meet the district small business liaisons today in the breakout rooms, but they are your local contact for questions and inquiries and assistance with regard to the JOCs and the other contracts for middle mile broadband network. Next slide, please. The Procurement Assistant Technical Centers, also known as PTAC, as I mentioned earlier, we do have a guest speaker today to talk about the services that they offer. We have a link, and there is a link in the notes of the slide. If you can put that link in the chat so that our audience can get a link to where their local PTAC is located. That would be very helpful if we could have that done. All right, next slide. All right, so here today with us is Alex McCracken, again, from the California Capital Procurement Technical and Assistance Center. And as mentioned before, she's going to be providing some information for you all today and talk a little bit about the services that the PTACs offer for free. So Alex, are you on the call?
I am.
All right, take it away.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you very much for inviting me to talk about our services as a PTAC. Go ahead to the next slide, please. So actually, our particular PTAC under the California Capital Financial Development Corporation, and we actually have 3 different sectors in California Capital. We have the access to capital sector, which is our business loans. We have the Women's Business Center, and don't get confused with the name as far as Women's Business Center. The Business Center helps everybody, okay? And then we also have the government contracting, which is the PTAC. So California Capital has been in business for about 40 years. And like I said, we've got access to capital, we've got Women's Business Center, we've got the PTAC. Next slide, please. So as Michelle said, there are numerous PTACs throughout the United States. There's actually about 300 plus PTACs. Each PTAC has their own territory. And our particular PTAC, we support 16 counties, which includes Butte, Colusa, Sacramento, Sierra, Sutter, Tehama. And if you have questions as far as what PTAC supports your territory, I know that you'll get a link to, or you'll get the slide deck. So you can click on the link. That takes you to APTAC, which is the Association of PTACs, and that will take you to our huge map that will show you how you can find the PTAC that supports your territory. Okay, next slide, please. So to register for our services, and I'll talk a little bit about our services in just a moment. To register for our services, you can click the link on the screen. We are here to help our small businesses prepare for contracting, pursue contracting, and then also do a high-level support on performing on government contracts. Next slide, please. And the minute that you guys have all been waiting for, these are some of the services that we help and that we provide. And also let me tell you that these services are at no cost to you. Okay, so we help you understand the opportunities and requirements of becoming a federal, state, or local government contractor. So we work with federal, state, and local government agencies, contract officers, small business liaisons. We help you and guide you through the process of certification, a variety of certification, whether that is local certification, state, federal, or state certification, or federal certification. We are here to guide you through the process. We are not a certifying agency, but we can guide you through the process and also help you discuss who you need to talk to if you run into any issues with your certification process. We also are here to help you find historical data on costs and on contracts and your competitors. We're here to help you in regards to how do you go after some of those set-asides on the federal side, okay? We're here to also help you navigate looking through an RFP, an RFQ, request for proposal, request for qualification, any type of solicitation vehicle. We are here to help you read through it, determine if it's something that you want to go after, and then also assist you in guiding you through going after those particular solicitations. Next slide, please. So just to let you know, in our last full period of performance, our particular California Capital PTAC, there were 3,524 government contracts were awarded as prime contracts to our California Capital PTAC clients. So those awards totaled $127 million in 1 year, okay? So let's break this down just a little bit. 485 prime contracts were awarded by federal agencies for an estimate of $61.1 million, and then 3,039 prime contracts were awarded by state and local governments for an estimate of $65 million. So yes, there is money to go after, there is money to be had. We help you navigate and translate the government landscape when you're going after these contracts. Next slide, please. So we do that again we can help you with marketing, capability statements, okay? We can help you put together your capability statement. We can help you in regards to getting you the information in regards to forecasting, what's coming down the pipeline. You really want to know what's coming down the pipeline so you can start building those relationships, okay? Next slide, please. We also help you by hosting and also co-hosting workshops, how to do business with the federal government, marketing your business, because once you get certified, you still have to market your business, okay? Getting certified is the first step. Again, like I said, we help you with your capability statement. We help you with navigating sam.gov. We help you with navigating, should you go after general services multiple awards schedule? If you are a small business who has an innovative idea, we also help you with the small business innovation research, small business technology transfer research program funding, okay? We also have a partnership with Govology. It is a government online learning management system that helps you with proposal writing, marketing, costing, pricing, all of those things that you're going to need to do when you are trying to secure any type of government contracting. And again, all of this is at no cost, okay? And by the way, some of these courses on Govology are anywhere from $75 to a couple $100. When you register with us, we will help you get your code and they will be at no cost to you. So some additional resources, and next slide, please. And then we also have a lot of resource partners. Obviously, one of them is Caltrans. And then we also, some other resource partners, Sacramento County, SMUD, SACRT, Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency, Bureau of Reclamation. So we are here to help you, like I said, navigate the government contracting landscape, and then also help it make those introductions and help you get prepared to go after contracting and sit in front of the decision makers and tell them what value you add to any type of project. Next slide, please. We also do initiatives. We work with the federal government to do initiatives. If you are a manufacturer and you have any questions in regards to the Made in America waivers or the Made in America initiative, please feel free to click the link on the screen and that will take you to the Made in America office. And I think I have one more slide. So what's the process to engage us? First of all, you need to register on the link on the screen, and then you will be assigned a PTAC counselor. We are a small team, but we are mighty. And there's 4 of us. We all have at least 25 plus years of working with small business community and also on the client side. So we've worked with small businesses, small business community. We've become the liaison between the small business community and the primes, and we've worked on the client side. So we've got a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of background. Also know, again, all of this is at no cost to you. Okay, next slide. So again, register with us. You will get assigned a counselor. We will work with you one-on-one, and we will also help answer some of those questions that get a little bit confusing and a little bit frustrating. That's what we're here for. So please register with us. For California Capital, we normally, once we get assigned a client, we normally reach out to you within 24 hours. So we work really fast because we want everybody to have equal opportunity to go after all of these different contracts. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Caltrans.
All right. Thank you so much, Alex. That was a very informative presentation, and we appreciate you coming to the table today. As mentioned earlier, I work in the Office of Civil Rights, and we are trying to provide not only the oversight for the outreach for the Middle Mile Broadband Network projects, but we're trying to bring tools to the table that will help the small business community. So up next, I have another guest, Mr. Will McCure, who is going to be talking about matchmaking. And we are going to get into a live demo. So again, just some tools for our small business community. Hope that you will find them useful. And any questions you can either put in the chat or we'll save for the Q&A session. But go ahead and take it away, Will.
Thank you, Michelle, and hopefully everyone can hear me. First of all, thank you guys for inviting the California Black Chamber and our partner, My Business Matches, to introduce you or share with you our matchmaking process. Next, please. So our mantra when we do this, and we started doing these workshops about 16 months ago, sponsored by the Department of General Services, to do just what the PTAC representative talked about, to make small, micro, and we even deem some of them mini micro businesses more aware of state contracting opportunities, and then to help them navigate that landscape, to get registered, provide technical assistance to assist with their certification so that they could ultimately take advantage of those. And our slogan is pretty simple. Doing business with the state of California is as simple as 1, 2, 3, get registered, get certified, bid, and win the contracts. Next, please. So there are 3 essential types of certifications that are provided by the state. We introduce our workshop and webinar participants to each of those and explain what small business certification is, what small business certification for public works is, and what are the eligibility requirements to be a disadvantaged veteran business enterprise. Next, please. One of the beauties of using the My Business Matchmaker platform, and our partners will explain that as we go, is the system allows us to tailor the software to meet the project that we're working on. So when we learned about this, we used North American Industry Classification System, or NICS codes, but for the Middle Mile project, we were able to tailor the platform using the UNSPSC codes that are used in state contracts. Next, please. We explained very briefly to participants what the UNSPSC classifications are, how they fit to their business. We walked them through a website so that we can find their codes, because we know they need those as they start to register in the state's platform. Next, please. So what we did to prepare for today, and at a workshop we had here in Sacramento the other day, is sort of just walk people quickly through how the matchmaking works and essentially how simple it is. And we were doing this manually before learning about My Business Matches from the Hispanic Chamber and from the representatives at Department of General Services. But it all, of course, starts at the state of California's marketplace on Cal eProcure. Next. So as someone said earlier, there are about a dozen or so middle mile broadband projects out for bid right now, and we know that there are some more upcoming. So we pulled one of those to show as our illustration today. So next, please. We just pulled the first one from the top of the list, and the same thing we do with MBM for work we've done with Caltrans and other entities we did here. This job order contract for middle mile has 2 UNSPSC codes associated with it. Next. We take those codes and insert them into the state's database of certified firms. Like the project is calling for, we search for them by micro, small business, public works businesses, and disadvantaged veteran enterprise businesses. So we took the first code from that project, as you see before you did the search. Next slide, please. And then that next slide shows us by name, by certification ID, by the code that they're certified to work on, that there are 834 certified firms in the state's database that possess that code. Next, please. We did the same thing with the second UNSPSC code. And next slide, please. And the next slide shows that for that code, we found 308 certified businesses that could perform that work. Next slide. And then this slide, of course, is that list of firms. Because we're working with Caltrans, and oftentimes we're working with firms both in the state program and the federal disadvantaged business enterprise program, as Tony said, to do business in not the usual way, but to be more outreaching to everyone that could potentially do the work. We also went into the California UCP database and found DBE certified firms that could potentially do the work so that they could also be part of the notification process. Many of them are already state certified, and some of the upcoming job order contracts afford an opportunity for them to become state registered and certified prior to that bid opportunity going away. So we presented that slide to show the availability from the other system of potential firms that could participate in the work. Next, please. So lastly, as I said, we can do this using NICS codes. We can do it using UNSPSC codes. We research that information here at the California Black Chamber, and then we compile it into Excel charts. Sometimes we send PDFs, but we bundle all those things up, send it to our partners at My Business Matches, and then they're able to tailor a website and a registration link that invites both suppliers from the small, micro, and disadvantaged veteran business side and buyers from the state agencies that are responsible for each section of the project, and create matchmaking meetings so that we can capture prime contractors that are interested in the project. They can in turn interact with subcontractors that are suppliers and then present themselves as a team to Caltrans or the entity that's awarding the project. With that as our in-house approach or process, I'd like to turn it over to the staff from My Business Matches. And as Michelle said, they'll give us a really quick preview of how the platform works and how using it benefits this project and small businesses in general.
Thank you, Will. Thank you so much. I believe Guadalupe Mejuto.
Yes, ma'am. It would be Guadalupe and Jeff.
Okay.
Nick, if you could unmute Guadalupe, please.
Doing that now.
Thank you.
Okay, I sent a request to unmute.
I'm so sorry. So Jeffrey is going to be in charge of explaining the platform. Jeffrey?
Mute Jeffrey Vigil as well.
Thanks, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Will, for the introduction. Very happy to be here. Thank you to the Caltrans for the opportunity to speak on our system. I'll keep this as high level as possible in interest of time. So just a quick introduction to myself. My name is Jeff Vigil. I'm the VP of Business Development with My Business Matches. My Business Matches is a software as a service. We are a SDVOB MBE small business, SBA 8A as well. We're currently working on our FedRAMP certification with the federal government. We work with agencies, various agencies from the state level and also the federal level, like the VA, DOT, and DHS, respectfully. Really quickly, how we work, Will gave a great summary on how our system can cater and connect procurement decision makers to procurement-ready vendors, and we automate that process 100%. The process that Will and CBCC does is taking the raw data, and then our system can automate that raw data and facilitate direct matches between the decision makers as well as the vendors inside the system itself. So how do we work? We're a cloud-based system. We don't require any messy applications to download onto your computer or iOS or Android devices. Everything's completely done inside the cloud, and we are compatible with various systems as well. So it makes it very easy for anyone to access. Again, we do work with federal agencies as well, and we are able to work and navigate around their systems too. Our technology automates the matchmaking process by gathering the opportunities. So whether it's NAICS codes or NIPG codes or just generic business categories, we can take that information into our system and use that to automate the matching facilitate between the procurement decision makers and the vendors themselves based off their capabilities. So if I'm a PDM or procurement decision maker, I may have an opportunity for computer programming services. I can enter that opportunity into the system, assign revenue requirements, seek out certain vendor requirements. So if I'm looking for women-owned, SBA 8A certified types of businesses, the system will allow me to input that information, and then I'll be matched accordingly to those needs. So we act as the main conduit to facilitate business relationships. And the way we do that is through very simple steps. So the information's input into our system. We provide a one-step login link to either the vendor side or the procurement decision maker side. From that point, they're able to navigate into the dashboard. They can always update their profile, business categories, etc. They review their matches, whether it's their direct matches or the directory itself, and they can even filter out different information. And from that point, we allow both sides, so the users on the vendor side and the decision-making side, what types of meetings that they want to have, who I want to meet with. We provide business information only, no personal identification information showcased in the system. And then they're able to schedule a meeting, whether it's on the event setting or we even offer a 24-hour solution. From the platform itself, they're either redirected to an in-house virtual meeting. Again, no need to download any applications, or we even do have the capability of hooking up API through other systems as well. A great example would be Zoom, which is primarily utilized. So that's the system in a nutshell. I will showcase very quickly the dashboard and the matching algorithm itself. So I'm going to do a quick screen share. If I can be given the screen share capability.
Should have that ability already, but I'm going to, once again, you have a co-host capability, but I'll put you as presenter. Tell me if you can do it now.
Yep, looks like it can.
Great.
Thank you, Nick.
Okay, so we condense everything into 6 easy steps. You're either registered or input in the system. You receive the magic link. That magic link will give you one-click access to the system. From there, you go through the My Meeting Maker, which allows you to view your automated matches directly in the system. You can send out invitations to request a meeting or accept or decline those meetings yourself. And then once a meeting is accepted by both parties, you're able to test your hardware, make sure you're ready, and then join a virtual meeting directly from the system. So this is how our dashboard looks on most cases. You'll have your direct login link, and from here you can update your profile, how you see fit. We even give you capability to see how well your profile is built. So the system's constantly giving you suggestions and analytics on how you're viewed from either side, whether it's on the procurement side or on the vendor side. We provide that information from you. And then from that point, you're able to view your direct matches inside the system. So please note this is on a demo site itself, but we provide a filter system on the left-hand side to really allow you to narrow down your matches inside the system. So again, we're providing visibility and we're automating that process directly. We even give you a scoring system depending on how well you may match up with a specific opportunity. So you may see if a vendor meets certain requirements or they do not meet certain requirements. And this actually allows for teaming opportunity on the vendor side as well. So we're condensing everything into one platform to allow users to make the best business decisions and facilitate these meetings directly within one platform. So in the interest of time, I will pass it back over to Will at this point. But again, I thank everyone for the opportunity to allow us to high-level showcase our system, and we are open to any questions for anyone in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Will. There was a
Thank you,
question in the chat in terms of how do they access your matchmaking software? Is that something that you can put in the link for everybody?
Will.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate you all coming in. And again, the Caltrans Office of Civil Rights is doing everything that we can to promote small business and have them be a part of this middle mile broadband network projects. So Adriana, if there is nothing else, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Guadalupe and Jeff. Really appreciate all that information. I would now like to hand this over to Scott Adams. He's the Deputy Director of the Office of Broadband and Digital Literacy at the California Department of Technology. And Scott's going to be talking about future opportunities. Scott?
Yeah, thank you, Adriana. And thank you, everyone, for being here. It's my pleasure to present to you on future potential other opportunities associated with the state's Broadband for All program. So in addition to the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative, actually, a note before I jump onto this slide, that there may be other opportunities on projects that are funded by CPUC last mile programs, which were also included in the state's historic broadband investments in July of 2021. And those grant programs would go to internet service providers or other eligible entities to develop or expand local networks or services in unserved areas across the state. So I would definitely encourage folks to look at ways to participate in those projects. On this slide here, what we wanted to flag is that our office and the PUC and other state agencies continue to leverage as much additional funding as we can to support the aims of Broadband for All, which Director Bailey Cremens had noted at the top, which is to ensure that all residents have really reliable, high-speed internet at home, schools, libraries, and businesses across the state. And so what we wanted to flag is that the bipartisan infrastructure legislation, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which was passed this year, invests roughly another $65 billion to support broadband deployment and adoption and digital equity in the states. And both of these programs have national pools, broadband equity access and deployment of $42.5 billion, and the Digital Equity Act programs also have an additional $2.75 billion that the state is going participating in these programs to get our share and allocation of funds to support these efforts. Next slide, please. what we wanted to let you know is that the Department of Technology is going to be the administering entity for the state's digital equity planning process. The Public Utilities Commission is going to be the administering entity for the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program. Both of these processes are going to be coordinated over the next year, and really we intend to do extensive and are doing extensive engagement both at the statewide and local level to solicit input from many partners and stakeholders like yourselves. And what we'd really like to highlight is that when completed, both of these plans will be integrated and unlock hundreds of millions of dollars to achieve broadband for all. Next slide, please. I think something that's really important for us to share about the digital equity planning portion of the IIJ funding is that it's really directs states to prioritize investments for 8 covered populations that you see here. And those are individuals that are living in covered households at or below 150% of the federal poverty level, aging individuals, incarcerated individuals, veterans, individuals with disabilities, individuals with language barriers, including English learners and those with low literacy levels, and members of racial and ethnic minority groups, and those who live in rural areas. Next slide, please. What we wanted to share with you is that the planning process that CDT will be conducting in partnership with PUC is going to include 5 components, and those are a statewide planning group to advise CDT and PUC on development of the digital equity plan. There will be 6 outcome area working groups to really look at the digital equity barriers for the covered populations and help address outcomes in education, in healthcare access, digital inclusion, economic and workforce development, access to essential services, and also tribal collaboration. The 3rd component is going to be a digital equity survey or surveys that we really intend to do, get granular information in all 58 counties and oversample the covered populations, and then conduct local and regional outreach events where we hope to engage folks in their communities where they live. And then lastly, ongoing statewide public engagement. Next slide, please. What we did want to highlight is that, again, we wanted to decentralize the effort of developing the digital equity plan. So it wasn't something that was centered in one place, and really increase accessibility of the really the folks that are on the ground in communities doing the work to help support broadband for all. So we intend to do 20 local and regional engagement events throughout the state over the next year. We're looking at breaking up into the census regions, and really want to encourage all of you to participate in the process with us and help provide feedback on how we can shape both the digital equity plan and how that can inform investments that are made through digital equity capacity grants or infrastructure grant programs developed as part of the BEAD program. Next slide. And so we really are eager to align and partner with you all, and we look forward to working with you. We wanted to show on the state's Broadband for All portal and the digital equity planning development process, we've created a page where entities and partners can go and indicate how they'd like to participate and contribute to the planning process. And we would encourage you all to go there and let us know how we can all work together on developing the digital equity plan over the next year. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. If we can proceed to the next slide, please. As part of today's meeting, we're also holding breakout sessions, and these are based on the five CDT regions for the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative. And if you're more familiar with the Caltrans districts, Region 1 is comprised of Caltrans Districts 1, 2, and 3 in the northern region of the state. And Region 2 is kind of the northern central portion of the state, which includes districts 4 and 9, a portion of 9 and 10. More centrally located, we have a Region 3, which includes Caltrans districts 5, 9, and that other portion of District 9. 5, 6, and portion 9. Sorry about that. And we have, moving further south, we have Region 4, which is comprised of Caltrans District 7 and 12. And below that, we have Region 5, which are Districts 8 and 11. So with that, we are going to move you into the breakout sessions. Nick, if you would facilitate this, and we will see you back. We had allocated about 30 minutes for the breakout sessions. I know we're running a little bit behind, but we do want to make sure that you have sufficient time to be able to network and engage in those rooms. So we will see you back at 10:55. We'll push that a little bit, the limits on that one. Thank you.
Adriana, I've opened up the breakout rooms according to the locations. You can join the breakout rooms at your discretion, so feel free to pop into those rooms 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, as she stated before.
Okay, welcome back. I hope I hope everybody found the breakout sessions useful and beneficial. I know we had a brief break scheduled before the Q&A, but I also know that we are running over. So I would like to, if folks don't mind, please, I guess, I think we're gonna move past the not the Q&A, sorry, taking the brief break and move to the Q&A because I'm gonna guess that there are some questions. So with that, and before we move to the Q&A, I do also want to make mention, we will be sharing the presentation. I know there were some questions about being able to save the chat. So at the top of your screen, you should see the ability, you should see those usual file and some of those menus. If you click on file, it allows you to be able to save the chat, but we will work with CDT on making that accessible to folks, the chat accessible to folks and sharing that information. So with that, I will move over to the Q&A, and I see a hand from Mark Asher. Nick, if you wouldn't mind helping on the unmuting. Mark?
I'm helping. You should be
There we
okay.
go.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Roger that. Hi, this is Mark Asher, president of Ash Integrated. We are a DVB based in LA. And I just wanted to follow up on the chat and saving function because in my breakout session, I was told to just ask the question again because I'm on my phone and there's no way to do the saving. So will there be a way to either get a copy or can we email somebody? What's the follow-up step there, just so we don't lose those contacts?
Yes, so we will work with CDT on sharing that information, and that includes the presentation and participants from today's webinar, and it's also being recorded. So if you want to go back to at least with the main session, if you wanted to go back to something that had been shared in a previous presentation, you have that option as well. And let's see, I do see a hand from Theone. And again, apologies in advance if I mispronounce your name. It is not my intent to do so.
Yeah, hi. This is Dion Zaradian with Disney Construction. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, I had a question. I'm trying to ascertain something about the requirements that this program is putting on the prime contractors. There's a lot of discussion about solicitation and outreach here, but it's not clear to me what I saw a quick slide on the JOC goals. I didn't necessarily see one. Maybe I missed it on the CGMC goals, but maybe they're the same. But what I want to know is, are those primes required to list and specifically who their small business subcontractors or else disabled veteran contractors are going to be at that time of bid, because there's something fundamentally different between that which has teeth in it versus having some piece of paperwork that you turn in occasionally saying, look, we're using this small business and that small business. It's fundamentally different, and Caltrans should know that, because that's how their typical contracts roll out. They have teeth. The state requires prime contractors to list exactly who they're using, because our concern, of course, is that, and we've seen this done before. We saw this with the light rail program, etc. There were a lot of primes soliciting quotes from small businesses such as ourselves, and they would get the quote, they'd use the quote, but when the time came to actually to engage in the subcontract or whatever, they were nowhere to be found. They just used our number, and they went and found, they shopped our number is what the expression is called, where they take our number and they use it in the bid. But then when the time comes to perform the work, they go and find someone to do it cheaper. And so there needs to be teeth in this program to be certain that these small businesses and the veteran businesses that show up at bid time are the ones that are going to be involved for the actual execution of the work.
No, thank you. And what I would encourage you to do is submit a bidder's inquiry with your questions. And it does include the reporting requirement in the contract. So with regards to the earlier question, again, please submit that bidder's inquiry.
But nobody can speak to that?
So, one of the things that I want to make sure is that with today, I want to make sure that you're getting the official, getting official responses, because this is not, that's how we make sure that you're getting the answer, and they're getting the consistent answer across the board. With regards to kind of the requirement and that piece, I will direct that over to I guess if Mark, if you want to address that. And the other thing that I'll mention is that way everybody has access to the same information when you submit that bidder's inquiry. Mark?
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I will say, so yeah, when they submit their plans, the plan is part of the bid. I mean, that is that's part of the what is being submitted to the state. And so we expect to hold them to that. We'll be working with them in terms of the contract management as we move forward. As I think people are familiar with job order contracts, I think it's more that two-part process, whereas with a standard design bid build, you sign the contract and then you provide that list at that time. And so I think with the job order contracting, where the actual work that goes forward is achieved through a work authorization subsequently, I think that's where some of the more specifics are provided or can be provided as well, in terms of hey, this was what we originally submitted. Here are any changes to that. I think some of the Caltrans team understands kind of some of the moving parts on that, but the short answer is yes. I mean, that if a contractor is submitting a bid with a plan to meet these goals, then that is the intent. Then the plan is for Caltrans working with CDT to verify that as we move forward with work authorizations, that those goals are being met.
Maybe a follow-up question is, does the Caltrans's Office of Civil Rights, are they involved in evaluation of these contracts in any way?
Yes. Hello, my name is Michelle Lopez Hardy from Caltrans Office of Civil Rights. The contracts will go through the evaluation process, just like any other contract that has a small business and a DVBE goal. The documents will be reviewed prior to award. So that is not any different with these projects versus our regular projects.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I see a hand from Ali. Nick, if we could unmute Ali, please.
Unmuted.
Thank you. Thank you, Adriana. Adriana, I'm going to make a comment, and it's not necessarily to you or the co-host, but specifically to the Office of Civil Rights and the awarding office at Caltran. The gentleman, Dion, what he mentioned is actually accurate to the point. And this has been something that we've been experiencing with devastating effect on small businesses, DVEs, and so forth. Specifically with the CMGC and the progressive design build that all of a sudden became the method of choice. What Dion have said is accurate, is a problem, and the issue is not reviewing the bid documents when the contract is being awarded. For one simple reason, what you're awarding is the first phase of the construction. This is when they develop the budget, develop the plan, and so forth. The second phase is where the problems are. And what he have described is very simple because they are not, I take it back, not everybody, but there are some that are taking the bids and they are using the bids for their initial package. And then sometime down the line, everybody get replaced. I have seen it over and over and over again for the last 4 or 5 years on almost most of the design build, most of the CMGC and the progressive design build, not necessarily with Caltran, with LA Metro, LAX, and so forth. So the point I'm trying to say here, and again, my apologies because I'm really not trying to put you on the spot, but the answers that we have heard today is not a very constructive method of addressing this issue. Caltran and the Office of Civil Rights need to address it. It has been raised several times by several people at several meetings, and there's no resolution on it. Tomorrow and Friday, there's a statewide Small Business Council meeting, and those committees and the Prime Council need to address this issue sooner or later. Thank you for your time. And Dion, I put my cell phone number if you would like to call me, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. We do appreciate getting the feedback and hearing from you. So thank you. I see a hand from Patrick Sauls. If we could unmute Mr. Sauls.
Thank you very much. I'll keep this very short. What Dion and Ollie said, having been part of the High Speed Rail Business Advisory Council, having talked very closely from 2016 to 2020 with many folks within architect and engineering, formerly representing a disabled vet and small business and statewide, and talking with Caltrans civil rights offices and small business procurement officers throughout the state, including DGS. This is obviously, this is not all primes. This is not just a Caltrans thing, but this is probably, in my opinion, the small business utilization during contracts, not during bid award, but during contracts, and not just something that's maybe checked a little bit at project closeout, is probably one of the #1 small business DVBE and DBE issues within architect and engineering across the state. We cannot emphasize enough how much of an issue it is for detrimental to small businesses certified of all ways, shape, or form to be included on contracts, plan for them, and then ultimately be replaced when you have at times 0% utilization of that business or businesses of that type on some contracts. if the eye of the primary agency is not there on it enforcing it, many times it simply does not happen. And there can be at times, at least from the optics of the small business community, zero repercussions to a prime that is not acting in good stead. Without the lead agency pushing, it does not happen, and it can bankrupt small businesses. Again, we're not expecting an official answer here, of course, because this is all auditory. But in taking these feedbacks to heart, I can say this is one of the number one issues of small businesses, certified SB, DVB, and DBE on these types of contracts in general, state contracts, statewide, regardless of agency. Thank you.
Adriana, if I could just make a statement real quick. Again, this is Michelle Lopez Hardy from the Office of Civil Rights. One of the things that we've recently stood up is a compliance unit here in our office. So we have heard this concern obviously brought to the table a number of times. We expect to see it tomorrow at the Small Business Council. But the office here, as I said, we have stood up a compliance unit. And so that is the first, I guess, the first measure of trying to get in front of this utilization issue with small business and DBEs. So I just want the audience to know that we are doing something in regards to utilization. The compliance unit is here, and we will be addressing these issues going forward. So I just want to, again, let the community know that we are aware of that concern. We have established a compliance unit, and we have some next steps to engage in, and your feedback helps with those next steps. Thank you.
Thank you. So I see Mr. Varma. Pete, you have your hand up?
Unmute your microphone, Pete.
Oh,
thank you. Appreciate that. I just want to make one comment and then and ask a couple of questions. The comment that I have is the first meeting we had regarding this broadband, there was no small business go. So if it wasn't for Caltrans fighting for small business, we wouldn't be at this meeting today. So just wanted to say, you know, for Caltrans, Tony Tavares, the director, and OCR, thank you for fighting to get us today to this meeting. My first question is that in the environmental services under the flow chart, and I had written over that environmental services, design, build, is that respond to RFP to Prime, or is it direct to the region? Who will be managing all of the environmental issues, concern, mitigation? I mean, Mark is online, he can answer this question. I would appreciate. And then the second question is, are all materials provided by the CDT, procured and provided by CDT, so the contractors doesn't have to supply any materials at all? Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So I'm sorry, I'll start with the last question first. In terms of we have a procurement that is intended to provide all of the materials. And so, that's how we've got access to fiber, conduit, vaults, huts, and so I think the expectation is that we will be providing, we can provide everything. And so that's, that should not be something that contractors have to worry about. And I'm sorry, the first question was it relative to how the permitting was being done for the project? I'm sorry. Adriana, I'm sorry, I can't.
Might be, sorry.
It wasn't unmuted. I couldn't unmute it. My second question was regarding the environmental services, mitigation work, that type of work. Is that something the RFP is on Cal e-Procure direct from the prime, or is it direct from the agency, Caltrans or Caltech?
So yeah, in terms of the permitting, the expectation is that Caltrans is going to work on that directly. So I'll kind of defer to them. Clearly you know more about kind of that back and forth than I do. So I kind of defer to Caltrans in terms of how they do that. But that is part of the overall project oversight, project development, and project oversight work that Caltrans is doing on this.
Okay, thanks.
And Pete, I know as we move through the environmental, and I do not pretend to be an expert, hence why you will hear me refer folks to the bidders inquiry piece, because I do want to make sure that you get the right information and clear information. But the environmental, as mentioned, is going to be facilitated in the districts. And as we prep the work orders and work packages, depending on whether it's a job order contract or a construction manager, general contractor, CMGC contract.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Pete. And let's see, I see a hand from James Waller. If we could unmute Mr. Waller, please.
I'm going to unmute James in a second, but we do have about 2 minutes left, so I just want to make sure that everybody's aware of that. Thank you. James, you are able to unmute.
Fantastic. James Waller with Flatiron Construction, and we are very interested in receiving sub and supplier quotes, especially from small businesses. I'd like to just ask a couple of things. Bidder inquiries were mentioned several times on the call, but Cal eProcure does not take bidder inquiries like the rest of the Caltrans procurements. If you could maybe run through how those are submitted for the subcontractor supplier community. Also on materials, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are hundreds of millions of dollars in materials that'll be procured that aren't provided by Caltrans or CDT that are beyond the fiber and the conduits. Isn't that correct? I want to encourage the suppliers to take a look at all the items that are going to be procured under the JOCs and the CMGC contracts.
Yeah, so what I'll say is we have conduit. Yeah, you mentioned fiber, conduit, vaults, huts. And so if there are other components that we've missed there, or, I know we worked a lot with Caltrans to make sure that we've identified what the range of materials that we're going to need are going to be, and to identify that. So I kind of would want to make sure we have the Caltrans engineering team in on the discussion. And there might be some components that are not that were not included, but yeah, I kind of want to make sure we have that conversation with the Caltrans engineering team to see if there's some major piece I've neglected. I mean, I think that right there, when I look at the conduits, the faults, and a number of other components that are kind of needed to put the whole thing together, I think our contract was intended to include most or all of those. And so if there's something we've missed, I want to make sure we include Caltrans in that discussion. But I don't believe there's hundreds of millions. Yeah.
And James, with regards to the bidder inquiries, let me, I know we've received a number of bidders inquiries, so let me just make sure to confirm the process. And I am writing down your name, and we will follow up with you. So I just want to, as I said, I apologize for not being an expert. But I do want to make sure that folks get the correct information. Also, when we send out information following up, we will clearly outline how to submit a bidder's inquiry. So we will make sure to circle back on that. But I appreciate the question. Thank you for being also on today's outreach event. So I know we are at time. Actually, I think we are getting close to being overtime. So I do want to be mindful of that piece. I know that there are some additional hands up. If you would like to submit, put your question either in the chat or the Q&A section, we will note that, and we will work with CDT on that response. So with that, I will hand this back over to Mark Monroe to close out today's outreach and engagement session. I will mention, as I hand it over, that we do have another outreach and engagement session, which will be on November 29th in the afternoon. So please, you are welcome to attend that one in addition to today's, or just attend the one today. But we appreciate you all being here. Mark?
Yeah. Thanks again, Adriana. And really want to just extend our appreciation for everybody participating, as well as the team for putting this together. This project really is intended to to benefit all Californians, and certainly in terms of service, but also in terms of trying to maximize the economic benefit. And so we wanted to make sure we do this outreach. We want to make sure that we're getting to the small business DVBE and DBE communities, and just to kind of give this chance to connect with some of the larger primes, and make sure that we're doing our best to help meet that. Really appreciate everybody's interest in the project. It's an important project. It's something exciting to be, kind of historic to be part of. And so we really appreciate everybody giving us their time today to help understand this project and get dialed in on it. Thank you.